two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late-night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events, and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Jubes & Kerr.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, as net migration hits its highest level since World War II, could Britain bursting at the seams spell the end for the Tory party? Plus, why Matt Hancock must not win I'm a Celebrity. And have the left gone mad by suggesting Shamima Begum is a victim of racism? Don't miss all that, plus new GB News superstar Camilla Tominey, Anne Widdecombe and more on Dan Wootton tonight, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. on GB News.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
And right across the United Kingdom.
You can find us on Sky Channel 512,
Virgin Media Channel 604,
Freesat Channel 216,
Freeview Channel 236,
and YouView Channel 236.
You can also take us with you on DAB Plus Radio,
with the GB News app and at the website gbnews.uk.
We're absolutely everywhere.
Come join us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Thursday night, and this is Farage at Large, live from Clacton-on-Sea. Please welcome your host, Nigel Farage.
Good evening, it's Farage at Large. We're here at Clacton-on-Sea on the Sunshine Coast of Essex. It's Brexit country, it was UKIP country, but hey, you know what? Over 6 years on from the referendum, how are they feeling? Is Brexit working out for them? We're going to find out. All of that, though, after we get the top of the hour news here at GB News, the People's Channel.
Nigel, thank you. I'm Bethany Elsey, here to bring you up to date from the GB newsroom. Now, the Home Secretary says she's committed to reducing levels of migration as the number entering the UK has hit its highest level since the Second World War. Data from the Office for National Statistics shows 504,000 more people moved to the UK than left in the year to June. It beats the previous record of 390,000 in 2015. Suella Braverman says the rise was driven by Ukrainians fleeing the war, but the Shadow Home Secretary says the government is failing.
Today's figures show is that the Conservatives have completely mismanaged both the asylum and the immigration systems. So you've got 98% of small boat cases still haven't been decided, and at the same time there's been an 80% increase in work visas because the government is failing to tackle the skills shortages and some of the labour shortages in the economy.
A 31-year-old man has been charged with the murders of a mother and her 2 daughters following an arson attack on a flat in Nottinghamshire. 3-year-old Fatima and 1-year-old Naima died in the fire at their home in Clifton on Sunday morning. The mother, 28-year-old Fatoumata Hydra, was taken to hospital and put on life support, but she died on Tuesday. A Metropolitan Police officer has now been charged with 53 offences after the CPS approved a further 9 charges against him. David Carrick served with the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Command. His charges include 27 counts of rape and 9 counts of sexual assault relating to 13 women between 2003 and this year. He faces trial in February. And the family of a 2-year-old boy who died after prolonged exposure to mould in his home have said they have no confidence in the leadership of the Housing Association. Awab Ishaq's parents made several complaints to the local authority but were simply told to paint over it. He died in December 2020. The Housing Secretary says Rochdale Borough-wide Housing has failed to explain how it will ensure tenants' safety in the future. And the leader of the RMT union has said talks with the Transport Secretary were positive, but he hasn't ruled out further industrial action. Mick Lynch warned the government that warm words aren't enough to bring a resolution. Thousands of rail workers are due to hold a fresh round of strikes over the festive period in a long-running dispute with Network Rail over pay. Meanwhile, in Scotland, RMT members have accepted a new pay offer by ScotRail. You're up to date on TV, online and DAB Plus radio. We'll bring you more news as it happens now. Let's get back to Farage.
Good evening. It's Farage at Large. We are in Clacton-on-Sea on the Sunshine Coast of Essex. If they ever stop cheering, I promise you we'll have a television programme for you. I have been to Clacton. I've been to Clacton many, many times before. I campaigned here in 2014, 2015. I was here the day before the referendum in 2016. I was back here in 2019, did a big open-air event on the pier. This is very much Brexit land, there's no question about that. A massive majority, 73% of Clacton voted Brexit. And of course, it was here that UKIP won a by-election and held the seat in a general election. I could not be in a more Euro-sceptic part of England, and that was no doubt. But it is now nearly 6 years on from that referendum. And it is fair and reasonable to ask, has Brexit delivered for you? I'm asking that of the people here in Clacton. I'm asking you at home and in your cars that question. Let me know, Farage at gbnews.uk, what you think about that proposition. Earlier on today, I went out onto the windswept seafront of Clacton. Unusual, because every advert for Clacton says the sun always shines here. But when I went out today to talk to some Clacton residents, and I spoke to Leave voters, I spoke to Remain voters, to ask them, is Brexit delivering for them?
Well, the government are failing. There's a lot of weak and wishy-washy people there who, quite frankly, are not up to the mark at all. I'm very sad. And I think an awful lot of other people with any common sense will be just that. Disillusioned, disappointed, thoroughly sad about it.
There's good and bad in everything.
Yeah.
I just think to be a part of the bigger picture would have been a better thing.
I think the immigration, really, and all the expense on the hotels, and we've still got our own people sitting on the street. I think it's very sad.
I don't think Brexit is actually working. That's my opinion. Yeah. I think more can be done, because obviously people you voted Brexit and that ain't really happened. Do you know what I mean? What people voted for, what we voted for should have been stuck.
I don't think so, not over the years, because it breeds mistrust. And when you breed mistrust, all that money's going abroad, but nothing's coming back in this country, and people get to know differently, don't they?
Well, the reason why it's worse is because we've got more and more people coming here. 500,000 more people can't get a house, can't get a school place, and all they're saying is, well, we've got to look after them, it's our duty. Well, it ain't. We've got to look after our own people first. Why are we putting them up in hotels when they're coming from a safe country when basically we can just send them back, which any other country does?
I'm tempted to say I wouldn't vote Tory again. I am.
Yeah.
Very disappointing, and 12 years and, you know, we're not that any better off.
And one gentleman there referred to the big news story of the day. And it is the net migration figures. Up to the year in June, net migration has hit over 500,000. It's almost unthinkable. This has happened after 12 years of Tory rule, where they promised in manifesto after manifesto net migration would be, and I quote, tens of thousands a year. I know that many of those people in Clacton and elsewhere that voted Brexit did so because they wanted us to get back control of our borders. They can now, I believe, scarcely find it credible that net 500,000 in 1 year have come into our country, let alone the 42,000 that have crossed the English Channel on dinghies and are now being put up in four-star hotels at taxpayers' expense all over the country. This, to me, is a betrayal of what we voted Brexit for. It is the Conservative Party, in my opinion, that has let Brexit down. They never, ever believed in it. They picked up the tune that I've been singing for some years. They won a general election off the back of it. And now I think both Remainers and Brexiteers are bitterly disappointed. I put this down to the Conservative Party, not to Brexit. But let's have a frank, open, honest debate about this. Councillor Dan Casey, you're an independent councillor. You represent people in Jaywick, just down the road from where we are. You're a man very involved in the local community, the British Legion, and all the things that you do. You believed at the time that Brexit was a mistake, and must be quite tough being a Remainer, big in Clacton-on-Sea.
Well, let's put it this way. I'm Daniel in the lines then tonight. Sorry about that. But anyway, I am a Remainer, and I'll always be a Remainer. That's just my thing. But I have some things to say, if you don't mind, to you.
My dear chap, carry on.
OK.
We believe... This is GB News.
I think
we believe in free speech.
I believe some of this is good for you. What benefits have accrued since we've gone Brexit? The UK has the lowest growth rate in Western Europe. Why? The only part of the UK growing is Northern Ireland, which is in the single market. All third-party trading agreements reflect EU rules. The UK has a massive labour shortage in care, National Health Service, farming. It's difficult to export to the wealthiest market in the world, the EU.
I'll give you one more, Dan. I'll give you one more on your shopping list.
Well, it's something good for you there. Illegal immigration is the worst. We have no relationship with France. Why?
All right, you've given me a long moan list about what's wrong with it. There is no doubt that the deal that Boris Johnson sold to the country as being oven-ready, if you remember, was anything but. We're not as indebted as other European countries. We actually have shown in foreign policy with the nuclear sub-deal with Australia, with leadership on Ukraine, with the vaccine rollout. If we'd been part of the European Medicines Agency, more people would have died. There are some benefits from Brexit, but not enough. The big one, I think, is immigration. But June Mummery, from Lowestoft Fish Market, been involved in the fishing industry in East Anglia all of your life. You became a Brexit Party MEP. You felt so passionately about this.
Yes.
How's Clacton's fishing industry 6 years on from the vote?
Well, there is no industry. I think there's one boat. There's one boat left. Back in the day, there was over 20 vessels in Clacton, with surrounding areas that you have here, Farage, etc. Brexit was a golden opportunity to rebuild Clacton with its fishing industry. One job at sea is 8 on land. So if we had taken back control, Dan, of the fishing industry, we'd have rebuilt that very, very quickly.
So June, you're putting the blame of the... So you're not saying Brexit has failed, you're saying the implementation has failed.
We haven't, in my opinion, Nigel, the fishing industry and coastal communities haven't got Brexit.
Right.
186 coastal MPs, bar 2, all voted for the awful deal. So places like Clacton, Lowestoft, Great Yarmouth, Fleetwood, Hartlepool, Hull and Grimsby haven't got their Brexit.
Okay. Dan, let me put that point to you. June's point is that if Brexit had been done properly, if we'd taken back our territorial waters, like Norway, on the other side of the North Sea, then actually Clacton and East Anglia could really... Brexit could have been a very good thing for these coastal communities.
Yes, with the right government in place, yeah.
Right, OK. Now, maybe you and I are finding a point of agreement. Maybe if the government had done Brexit properly, you wouldn't perhaps still have your Remain convictions.
No.
Well... I think they've let down the fishing industry big time.
OK, so we agree on that?
We agree on that.
We found a point of agreement between Remainers and Brexiteers. I mean, how about that?
Well done, Dan.
Well, I never thought that was going to happen tonight. So, but Dan, so what do you want to happen now? I mean, you know, do you think we should rejoin the EU? Do you think we should rejoin the single market? What do you want to see?
I personally, I think the future, I could well be wrong for young people, could be towards the EU. Not for me now, because I've had my time, basically, at the end of the day. I voted, but people... But I think some people, we should have, just in my opinion, I think there was a certain group that basically voted, and they're not going to be here to see what happens goes on. It should have been a lot of the younger people. There should have been a generation that voted. The future's theirs.
Oh, come on. You're not suggesting that just left-wing university students should have voted?
No, I'm not. Listen, I had 60 years in the Labour Party, and I got thrown out of that. So there you go. What can I say? I'm glad to be an independent. But that's just my view. I've got family in Europe, etc. I visit family in Europe, and going to Europe, it's an obstacle in the way now. It's not the same just getting off plane and doing the things I wanted to do.
Well, the whole object, actually, of border controls was so we could take back control of our borders.
There you go.
And sadly, it hasn't happened. 500,000 have come legally, 42,000 have come illegally. I think it's a complete disgrace. June, I'm going to give the final thought on this to you. I gave, you know, the best part of my adult life campaigning for us to be independent, to be free. I believed in it. I still believe in it. But the government are making an absolute holics of it. Unless things change, we're going to finish up with a Labour government, rejoining the single market, and no hope of taking back fishing. Do you see any way this can be sorted?
There are mechanisms that the government could have put in place. You know, there's acts that we could do now, but at this minute in time, I'm very worried. There is still 1,700 EU vessels plundering our ocean on a daily basis, 8 of which are super trawlers. Those type of vessels are banned in China, banned in Australia. We're allowing this to go on unmonitored, unregulated, so it's not being policed.
Yeah.
Whether it's oil and gas, wind energy, aggregates or fishing, it's our back garden.
Because all these government people, they're billionaires.
Let June have her say. Let June finish.
You cut me off there.
No.
The facts of life.
Sir, I love the passion, but let June finish.
You're going to cut me off.
Let June.
That's it. Hold on.
Let June finish. Yes.
So, like I said, whether it's oil and gas, wind energy, aggregates or fishing, the UK should be harvesting those rich resources for jobs, for places like Clacton, because you've got no other industry, Dan, but fishing would have rejuvenated Clacton, just like that. When Iceland
threw the UK fishing industry out back in the day. They told us to leave. Within 2 weeks, the UK were buying fish because they needed the raw material. There was thousands of jobs on the Humber that needed that, and it's exactly the same thing that we could have been doing.
June, it's passionate, it's strong. Dan's views are passionate too. Yep. We are the People's Channel. We believe in free debate. We have free debate and audience participation, I promise you. It's very, very important. But a final thought on this. Wherever we go around the country, wherever we go, I don't doubt it. I don't doubt it for one moment. But remember, there are lots of people out there watching this and listening to this, so let's pay some respect to them as well. Wherever we go around the country with this, and we're doing more and more of these Farage at Larges, it's real, it's proper debate, it's open. We always invite the local MP. We invited Giles Watling MP, who sits... Well, you see, isn't it funny? They're all booing him. He's got a 24,000 majority. He said he would only come and sit in this chair and debate with me if I discussed the arts and the theatre with him. You simply couldn't make it up. On that point, we'll take a break. Back with you in just a moment.
Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. Join me, Dan Wootton. I'll bring you the sharpest takes and hottest debates.
And it's about standards and public life. No, I'll tell you what's hypocrisy, Narendra.
I guarantee you there'll be no spin.
We believe in the UK.
No bias, no censorship.
It just doesn't make sense to me. He wasn't doing his job as Chancellor.
And no reason to go to bed.
So I guess they've always been quite woke.
That's Dan Wootton tonight on TV, radio and online. Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. for Gloria Meets. In exclusive interviews, I'll be finding out who our politicians really are and what they really think.
I think I've seen probably quite enough of Matt Hancock to last me a lifetime.
I'll also be getting to know you better, travelling to find out what you think about the politicians who are fighting for your vote.
They've got to get this country back on track.
Join me every Sunday at 6 p.m. only on GB News, on TV, radio and online.
My name's Tom Harwood and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today.
I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
Hello, I'm Simon Evans. Join me on GB News for Headliners at 11 p.m, where I'll be joined by two of the country's top comedians as we take a look at tomorrow's newspapers tonight. If it's a big story, we'll be covering it, I guarantee, but we'll also have some fun along the way. That's GB News Headliners at 11 p.m. We won't put you to sleep, unlike some of the other paper review shows out there. So join us, 11 p.m, 7 nights a week.
Clacton. I asked the question, has Brexit worked for you? Ian at home says no. as they were sold a Brexit utopian vision that was never possible, Scott says. Brexit worked, but the useless government supposed to be implementing it hasn't, and that does seem to be quite a general view. Another viewer says, Brexit is going great because we're successfully stemmed the flow of illegal immigrants coming into our country. Yeah. Well, it's not actually a laughing matter, is it? That issue is not a laughing matter. It's a national security issue, actually, and I believe that very, very strongly. Huge numbers of young men coming from, in some cases, war-torn parts of the world. We've no idea of their background, and the rest are all coming in from Albania to work in the drugs trade. You couldn't really invent it. Now, Clacton is suffering the cost of living crisis. I noticed today in the high street more homeless people than I've ever seen in Clacton before. And joining me is a man who's actually dedicating himself to doing something about it. He's lived in Clacton for 13 years. Sharma Martin is chairman of the poverty group Martin's United Foundation. Sharma, I saw it today.
Yes.
I didn't see homeless people in Clacton 7 or 8 years ago.
No.
What's going on?
It's bad. In the pandemic, beginning of the pandemic, Boris Johnson told everybody to stay at home. Don't let no one work at your address. So people like myself, local landscapers, we was put out of business because I served the elderly, I served people's homes. I took a walk into the town centre frustrated every day, the beginning of the lockdown, and everywhere was shut, from the businesses to the churches, local organisations, the town hall, the housing office. And all I see outside of a church on Pier Avenue was about 30 people gathered. I stopped, had a cigarette. I love talking. And I had a talk with the people.
I'd never have guessed, honestly.
Oh, yeah, I'm a bit of a chatty patty, they say, you know. So I got talking to these people. I said, what are you guys doing out here? You're the only people in this town. And the people turned around and said to me, well, this is normally a soup run every week. And we queue here for food, coffee, sandwiches, and they give us things like clothes, sleeping bags and bedding. Some of us are homeless. Some of us have mental health issues. Some of us have disabilities. Some of us are lonely. You know, some of us are unemployed. So we're in poverty, but we gather here together.
So your argument is that lockdown has made this fundamentally worse?
Well, yeah, they locked us down all of a sudden with no funds in place for us, no safety nets for the people, no safety nets for the business or organisations that, like myself, that are here to help people. And the people was left to just get on with it. And people's mental health went out the window, depression kicked in, even my depression kicked in, frustration kicked in. I took that walk into town. It was the best walk of my life because I met people in the same position as me and worse. And I said to them, so what are you here for? I had one man say, I need a bar of soap. Another needed a Lynx deodorant. Another needed a size 11 pair of trainers. So I said, look, I'll be back next week.
I admire you. I admire you for doing what you've done. I do.
Thank you. I admire you. You know, yeah.
And actually, even people who are working are beginning to find the household bills are frankly unaffordable. We're in a very tough state. Sharma, tell us what you think. And, you know, nobody can wave a magic wand.
Right.
And take all this away.
Right.
Just give us a couple of points you would like to see that you think can improve the plight of those in society who are going through a terrible time.
OK, what we need is we need our government as a whole, all of the individual parties, the House of Lords, all of them. We need them to have hearts and realise that we are human beings. Us people of the United Kingdom make up the country. All of us here and the whole nation make the country what it is. If we all die today, or we all don't wake up tomorrow, there is no England. There is no United Kingdom. So we need the government to be more loving. We need them to be more kind and treat us like human beings. On top of that, we need them to come and work alongside our local councils, give them the adequate funding they need to invest into social housing, employment, infrastructure in our towns, help for the youth, help for the elderly, help for the police to prevent crime. Because, you know, you look at the scar on my face, it's the cause of burglary, you know, all from people being in poverty.
We do have societal breakdown going on.
Yeah.
Sharma, I want to say, on behalf, not just me, but everybody in this room, it's very good to meet a young man with courage like you that's out there helping. It really, really is.
Blessings and love. Blessings and love.
And I'm going to say...
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm going to make a political point, which some may agree with and some may disagree with. I find it shocking that we're now housing tens of thousands of people who've illegally crossed the English Channel, who have full access to dentists, to doctors, to four-star hotels, to 3 square meals a day, many of whom, not all, but many of whom will do us harm. The fact we're doing this and not looking after our own, I think, is a national disgrace.
It's disgusting.
In a minute, we'll be back and we'll do Barrage the Farage. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you, Nigel.
Very passionate. Very, very passionate.
We are GB News, and we'd like to say thank you to each and every one of you for bringing us your conversations, for helping our great nation find its voice. We are here for you on radio, television, and online, across England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland.
It's not the BBC, you actually get your facts right.
We are proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Every Friday and Sunday night from 9, it's Mark Dolan Tonight.
We're on the same page again. There's something good happening.
Let Ian finish. Don't be such a cranky.
That mini budget was the tip of the iceberg.
And on Saturday, my show just got bigger. From 8, it's Mark Dolan's Saturday Night In.
You can't govern a country if you can't speak. Stop talking.
My God, we reached the end. I've never been early in my life. Only on GB News, the People's Channel.
We are GB News, right across the nation. You can get us on television, on radio, on digital. We're absolutely everywhere. Amazing! You see, amazing! You remind me of me in the European Parliament. But here's the most important bit. We are not part of the mainstream establishment. We think and speak just like you do. We are the People's Channel. Magnificent. That's really, really thoughtful. Come and join us on GB News, the People's News Channel.
Hello, I'm Alastair Stewart, and I'd invite you to join me at noon on Saturdays and Sundays for Alastair Stewart and Friends. I've been in this business for over 40 years. Now, here at GB News, I've never been happier. I get to choose the big stories that really interest me. We hear what you have to say, and you hear what I have to say. I really hope you can join me, noon on Saturdays and Sundays.
Hi there, it's Stephen and Anne.
At breakfast from 6 a.m, you'll always be caught up with everything you need to know, the latest headlines, opinions and debates.
We'll bring you the good news and the bad, but most of all, we're here for you.
Remember, send in your views and let us know what you would like us to talk about.
That's because we're your news channel. And every morning at 6 a.m, it's breakfast on GB News.
Crowd here now. Rail strikes are becoming an increasing problem. And the boss of the RM team, Mick Lynch, is clearly very articulate, but clearly intends to make life very difficult for people who want to travel around this country. Mick Lynch today made a rather disobliging comment about me. This is what it was.
Go on, let's go there. Hang on. Oh. Is Farage here? Because if he is, I'm not talking to him.
Well, there we are. There was Mick Lynch being rude about me, but I tell you what, I've had worse than that over the years. Here was my response to Mick Lynch. Big shout out for Mick Lynch. Now listen, Mick, you were pretty derogatory about GB News, and me in particular, a bit earlier on. Want to remind you, your predecessor, Bob Crow, and I got on really well. 2 reasons for that. One, we agreed on lots of things, disagreed on others, but the other was, actually, He was a Democrat. Yeah, he believed in having open, free, frank conversation. He also knew how many RMT members had voted Brexit, and indeed voted for me too. So here's my little thought. I'm very much on the side of your members getting a fair and reasonable deal. Who knows? I could even be useful to you. So here's the offer. I'll buy you a pint. We'll talk about it. You never know. You might even convince me. There you are. Well, there's my offer to Mick Lynch. Of course I want the rail workers to get a fair deal. Has to be a reasonable deal. Mick Lynch, come and have a beer. Let's talk about it. It's what we do in open, free democracies. Talking of which, it's time for Barrage the Farage. I have got 5 people who are going to ask me questions. I've no idea what those questions are. Bev, I understand, is up first. Bev, good evening.
Evening, Nigel. If we ever manage to leave the ECHR, what impact will this have on the GFA, the Good Friday Agreement, and the Trade and Cooperation Agreement?
It's a good point, Bev, that you make. I mean, look, you know, we have a 1951 UN definition of refugees that was designed for a world in which people got murdered for who they were, for their religion, their race, whatever it may be. Not for economic migrants or I don't like where I live very much. That needs updating. The fact that that flight to Rwanda was on the tarmac, when a judge from the ECHR at 10 p.m. said it can't go, you've got to rethink this. We didn't vote for this. We voted to take back control of our lives, not to have foreign courts overruling us. The poison pill. But the poison pill that's been put in by Blair, from everyone from Blair to May, is to write ECHR into everything else, devolution agreements, Good Friday agreements, and everything else. Do you know what my answer to that is? We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Either we want to be a full sovereign nation or we don't. And I think what we're seeing in the English Channel says we have to take action. This is a national emergency. Thank you, Ben. Now, Mark. Good evening.
Good evening, Nigel. Thanks for taking my question. I've never been known for my brevity, so this is a long one.
Well, you better just crack on.
After serving for 23 years in the British Army and now working in and around London, I see so many homeless people, British people, including some ex-service personnel, chatting to one today in London, living on the streets, trying to survive. Yet I see recently, as we've already mentioned it, illegal migrants, mainly young men, I'm not saying where from, living a life of luxury in comparison to those people, our people on our streets. And some of them are right next door to the hotels and the stately homes that they're living in this luxury, being funded by us, the UK taxpayer. My wife, sitting behind, a Dutch national, needed the correct status permission to remain in this country after my serving of my country. We've lived here since 1997. She's worked and paid her taxes, never claimed. What would you do, Nigel, to wake up those people in power, supposedly, in our government, as well as the delusional lefty woke population, to this happening? And what can be seriously done?
Well, Mark, first things first. Thank you for your 23 years of service. The country needs people like you. What to do about the lefty wokies, God knows. They're almost beyond it. But they're a small minority. That's the point. They are a small minority. I don't think there's an issue on which Westminster is more out of touch with the country than this issue. And it's about fairness. It's about fairness. Over 1 million people on social housing waiting lists. You know, it's about fairness. I mean, you know, how easy, folks, is it to get a GP appointment around here? Yeah. I mean, I didn't need to research that. It's about fairness. And actually, you mentioned your wife is a Dutch national. Now, for people who legally want to come to Britain, there are quite a few hoops to jump through. And it's quite an expensive, time-consuming thing. And the fact those can come in, chuck their passports in the Thames, we've no idea who they are, it's an outrage. This is the biggest issue in British politics. It's going to lead to dramatic political change in our country. You mark my words. Nick. Good evening.
Good evening. First of all, as president of the club, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for attending our club tonight.
Well, thank you very much indeed.
And this is not so much a question, it's a statement.
Yep.
Right, Boris is gone. Where is anyone with a personality? We have returned to the grey man days of John Major, blah, blah, you know, it's getting a bit boring. Come back, Nigel.
Oh, well, Vic, can I just say what a pleasure it is to be in this Comrades Club? And I understand this was formed by men who returned to Clacton from the Great War. And this was their therapy. They didn't talk to their wives or children about, in many cases, the horrors they'd seen and been through. They formed clubs like this, where they came together, they talked, they shared a few beers. This was their counselling. I've seen the flag, I've seen everything you got in this club, and it is remarkable, 100 years on, these clubs are still existing and thriving as this one is. Vic, you are quite right. When you got, you know, you got Starmer in one corner and you got Rishi in the other, and it does feel a little bit like it's the bland leading the bland. I get what you're saying. I'm working out a plan. I'm working out a plan, Vic, trust me. All right? OK. David.
Hi, Nigel. What do you suggest that we, the people, can do to take back our sovereign power and rid the country of the elitist, unelectable, unaccountable private individuals, private institutions, NGOs and stop foreign interference in our internal affairs?
David, I want to say this to you. Amazing letter in the Financial Times today, signed by trade unions, signed by big businesses, urging the government not to scrap any EU regulations. The whole point of leaving the wretched thing was to lift the burden. We heard June earlier talking with passion about the fishing industry. There's 5.5 million men and women in Britain running their own businesses, acting as sole traders. The point of Brexit was to help these people. I'm sorry to say that our establishment, too much of it, are in thrall to big business, in thrall to Chinese money. They are not, and too many of our politicians, David, in my view, are career politicians. They're doing it because this is all they've ever understood, all they've ever wanted to be. They're not putting the interests of the country or the people first. I think we need fundamental reform of the electoral system, change the electoral system, and there'll be fewer Giles Watlings in Parliament. What do you think? David. Fine. And last on this particular list, and by no means least, Lindsay.
Yeah. Could the government force us to rejoin the EU against our wishes?
They won't. No, look, no government, Conservative or Labour, will rejoin the EU without having another referendum. That would not happen. But as you detect in this room tonight, I mean, I'm in a room with an overwhelming number of Brexiteers, and by the looks of most of you, pretty passionate about it as well. And yet we're feeling disenchanted. You've got the BBC, other channels, telling you every day that all our economic misery is down to Brexit. No objective debate, that's what they're drilling into us. The worry is not rejoining the EU, it ain't going to happen. The worry is Brino. Brexit in name only. That was the sellout that Mrs May put to us back in 2018, and that was why, Vic, I re-entered the arena in 2019, and we won that European election, we got rid of Mrs May, and we got Boris full of promises. We've left, we're not going back. Beyond that, the whole thing is a failure. My fear is that letter to the FT today, to keep our rules the same as the rest of Brussels, is a precursor to a Labour government that signs us up to the single market. And then in economic terms, we're no better off than we were as members of that European Union. We've blown the opportunity to be a competitive nation and to be a nation that looks out beyond Europe. You know, Europe is 15%, 15% of global domestic product. The big new markets in the world are in the Far East and South America and elsewhere. Our first priority is to look after our own economy, our own borders, our own people. But to thrive as a nation, we have to be a global trading nation, not a European trading nation solely. I'm fearful. Lindsay, we're headed in the wrong direction, but I promise you, there's enough of us to fight them every inch of the way. All right? Now, in a moment, it is my favourite part of the show, especially Vic, as the Old Comrades Club has a very good beer on tonight. It'll be Talking Pints in a moment with Towie's Bobby Norris. Who else here in Essex? See you back in a couple of minutes.
I'm Michael Portillo. Join me on GB News on a Sunday morning for topical discussion, debate, arts and culture, and sometimes even some ethical dilemmas.
I don't always agree with you, Michael.
Michael Portillo, Sundays on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Monday to Thursday nights on GB News. At 6, it's Dubes & Co. 7 o'clock, Farage. At 8, join Mark Stein. And at 9, Dan Wootton Tonight, followed by Headliners. On TV, radio and online. This is GB News.
We are GB News, the People's Channel.
Why not take us home with you by visiting the GB News shop at gbnews.store. You'll find all the official merchandise, a really good present actually for yourself, your friends or your family.
We ship across the UK mainland at no extra cost. GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, I'm Esther McVeigh.
And I'm Philip Davis.
Whether you're watching or listening on TV, online or on radio, we handpick the latest stories, debates and expert opinions for your weekend. So whether that's politics, news or showbiz, we've got it covered.
Join us every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock on GB News.
Join my show Farage, 7 p.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and there you will get opinion, analysis, debate, and I'll cover stories that nobody else dares to touch. You've been cancelled. Join the club.
Oh my goodness me.
And then for the last 15 minutes, Talking Pints. We're over a drink. We have a civilised conversation with someone. We very often disagree, but we do it in a grown-up way. Come and join me on Farage.
Hello, I'm Michelle Dewberry and you can join me every weekday 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co. Me and my panel will get stuck right into the day's events and I can tell you, in fact, I can warn you, expect some robust debates, some strong opinions and perspectives from both sides of the fence. It's about you at home as well. I love to read out all of your comments, or at least as many as I can. So join me, Michelle Dewberry, Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on Dubes & Co.
Hello there, it's Eamon Holmes here from Breakfast on GB News. We're not just on your television and your screens, you know.
We're on DAB plus digital radio, so you can listen to your favourite shows on the move.
If you've not yet listened to GB News Radio, it's very simple. We're on your radio player and TuneIn apps, on your smart speaker, phone or tablet, or online at gbnews.uk.
Take us with you wherever you go. GB News Radio.
You never have to miss a moment of the People's Channel.
I'm Mark White. As GB News Home and Security Editor, I cover those key issues that are so important to you. Our authorities, our communities doing all they can to combat violent crime. With the public services under unbearable strain, why are we still failing to control our borders? Defence, the first priority of any government, has been continually hollowed out. Can we trust our politicians to protect the armed forces? Join me, Mark White, on GB News.
It is time for Talking Pints. And it's not that Essex wasn't on the map, but The Only Way is Essex on the telly very much has put Essex on the map over the last decade and more. And one of the big stars of The Only Way of Essex is Essex's own Bobby Norris, who joins me for Talking Pints. Cheers, Bobby.
How you doing?
Now, before, how am I doing? What, in Clacton?
Yeah,
this is one of the friendliest towns I've ever been to in the whole country. I really mean that. I really mean that. People are friendly. Even the ones that disagree with me are quite friendly. And well done to the councillor earlier. You know, he's a strong Remainer, but he came in, and thank you to all of you for treating him reasonably and fairly. You know, the other side, the hard left, scream abuse at us. We are better than that. We believe in democracy, and actually, point worth making to the two of you, isn't that what people fought for? Isn't that what people sacrificed for? So that we could have these debates. Now, Bobby, before you were a TV star, what the hell were you?
Well, first job, I say first job, I lasted a day. So.
Oh, that was pretty good. As long as Liz Truss.
Yeah, pretty much on par. So I tried to be a waiter, but I just never got the hang of it. Like, people was walking out with, like, 4 plates on each arm, and I was just walking out with 1 in each hand. And I was like, Bob, this ain't going to work out. And still, with 2 plates, I dropped one down a customer on my first day. So I never got called for a second shift. And then I went to work into a supermarket. I loved it. It was on the old tills, chatting away to people, so like right up my street, and kind of got like a little bit of a promotion to the lottery and the cigarette kiosk. That was like winning like an Oscar. Do you know what I mean? I loved it, doing the scratch cards and the lucky dip on a Saturday.
Meeting lots of people all the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, loved people. So for me, and then after that, went into hairdressing and become a teacher.
So how does reality TV, how does this impinge upon your life? How, Bobby, do you finish up on...
Well, back when I joined the show, it was in its very early days. You know what I mean? There was no ongoing reality show. Towie was its first. We had Big Brother, but people went into an house for 9 weeks, come out, and that was it, job done. Next year, be different people. So there had never been an ongoing reality show. And I'd literally gone for a drink in a local bar, and there was a producer come up to me and was just literally like, would you be interested in filming this show? And I was like, come into Marble Arch and meet us Tuesday. There was a place called Towie Towers. And went in, had this meeting, and within a week was just filming this TV show. And I don't think
goes to show, Bobby, if you stay at home, nothing good ever happens. You've got to get out and meet people and make your own luck.
Also, no one's going to knock at your front door and offer you opportunities.
No.
You know what I mean? You've got to be out there.
So, and it's been a big success.
Absolutely, yeah, huge. It was, like I say, the first of its kind, and from the back of that, we've seen others kind of replicate. We've obviously got like Made in Chelsea and Geordie Shore. And reality TV is such a staple of TV now. It's become a genre of its own, you know. So.
Has it led for you into other things?
Yeah. So for me, I left the show last summer, and I host a radio show now. And I love doing my presenting and hosting. I did 10 years on the show, which is a long time on a reality show. But I'm completely grateful for the opportunity. It changed my life and opened doors that was never going to be opened for me. So, yeah, really grateful.
Oh, it's been brilliant. And because the Sugar Hut, the nightclub, is the epicentre of Towie, isn't it?
Yeah, it was like our Queen Vic.
yeah.
It really was.
That's a good thought, actually. It was.
And we used to go there like pre the show, do you know what I mean? And we'd obviously start filming there, but it was a massive part of our lives, the Sugar Hut, and was a lovely place. And an era of Towie back then.
Yeah, and terribly sad about Mickey Norcross and all of that. We won't dwell into that right now, but it was a horrible thing. Bobby, you're using, you know, the fame and notoriety that you've got from that, and you've sort of become a bit of a political or social campaigner. You're famous, you're different in one way because you're gay, you've received a lot of online abuse.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club. Luckily, I just ignore the so-and-sos, but no, you've received a lot of nasty abuse online.
Yeah.
You're not alone. No. Anyone that becomes prominent or well-known gets this horrible abuse. Now, there is one school of thought that says, you know, the old-fashioned approach, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. There is perhaps a more updated view, which is this sort of stuff, and particularly when it's happening to teenagers and others, is leading to mental health decline, suicide, and all the rest of it. Yeah. Tell us what you're trying to do to rectify what you see as an injustice.
I think you've hit the nail on the head. Like, I'm big enough and know enough. I can deal with it. I think when you're in the public eye and you work it in the industry, no one deserves the level of abuse. And I mean, this isn't just someone going, I don't like your hair. I won't go into how bad some of the stuff I've been sent is, but we're talking like horrific, like just next level disgusting and vile.
I'll do you a swap after this.
Yeah, we should sit and have a little look. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? For me, I use my voice and my profile. As I say, I can deal with it. I'm in my mid-30s. I've been in this industry for 11 years. I have a thick skin. I know 12, 13-year-old Bobby would have struggled. And it weren't until speaking about it publicly and I get messages from parents that kids have... Their mental health is on the floor. Some of them won't leave their rooms. Sadly, so many are taking their own life. They're self-harming. So for me, if I could save one child from taking their own life, why would I not spend 5 years going to Parliament and trying to change that?
And you've been doing that. You've been going to Parliament, you've been lobbying MPs, you've really been trying your socks off on this, and I admire you for doing it. But, Bobby, there's a problem here. How the hell do we control the internet without censoring the internet?
Yeah.
How the hell do we do that? Because, I mean, I've seen Twitter, not now that Elon Musk has got it, but I've seen Twitter, shadow banning my content just because it doesn't suit their political... How do we... And maybe you haven't got the answer, maybe no one has. How do we strike this balance between free speech, free expression, all the things that we passionately believe in, and stopping stuff that is harmful? Who decides?
I get what you're saying. I certainly am not sat here and I've never in my 5 years of campaigning said, let's take away free speech, because everyone has opinions. I mean, we have opinions, let's have it right. But for me, anything that's illegal...
One chap who was sitting here earlier.
He had a couple, didn't he? He had a couple, bless him. For me, anything that's...
He's gone for an early bath, isn't he?
Anything that's illegal offline should be illegal online. So, again, this isn't like someone saying, I don't like this about you, I don't like your shows. Who cares about that kind of thing? It's irrelevant. When it's things that would be illegal on the Central Line, on Oxford Street, and I kind of get in defence of the law, things take time. Social media, relatively, like when I joined the show 11 years ago, I don't think Instagram existed, we had Twitter, but that was still in its infancy. Social media is a huge thing. The genie's out of the bottle. And as a whole, it can be an amazing tool for people. I mean, especially through lockdowns and things, we've been able to connect with people across the world. It's helped. I mean, I'd never heard of Zoom before. I wish I'd got some shares. Anyway, that's another story. But it's not caught up with the way the world is. So, I mean, what would you say? I mean, you've been in Parliament a couple of times.
Look, I genuinely think we have to do something, or try and do something. I am very worried about the invasion of privacy that social media leads to. I'm very worried about the impact on young children, that it's damaging their self-confidence and worse. And we have to find a way forward. I do not know what it is, but you are passionate for this campaign. Yeah. And I think, Bobby, you're on the right track, and I commend you for your success in Towie and for campaigning for our kids to live in a freer, happier space online. Bobby Norris, thank you for joining me. OK, now, we're doing these Farage at Larges almost every week. We're coming to North Wales next week. You want to join Farage at Large? Live, 7 o'clock. Next Thursday, we will be in Llandudno. And yes, I can spell it. We'll be in Llandudno. If you want to come and join us in North Wales, next Thursday evening at 7, it's gbnews.uk. Now, we're here on the Sunshine Coast. So we had to find a sunshiny type song to finish off. But this one is magic, because the first line of this one is, the tax man's taken all my money, which seems pretty appropriate for where we are. Tim Barton is going to play for us, Sunny Afternoon, by the Kinks. Thank you.
The tax man's taken all my dough, take me in my stately home, lazing on a sunny afternoon. I can sail my yacht, he's taking everything I've got, and all I've got's this sunny afternoon. Oh, help me, help me, help me sail away. Give me 2 good reasons why I ought to stay. In I love to live so pleasantly. I live this life of luxury, lazing on a sunny afternoon. In the summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime.
Monday to Thursday on GB News, it's Bev Turner Today from 10 a.m. We're going to be here for you, our GB News family, to keep you up to date, but also make you smile.
The guy went from puberty to adultery.
And I can't wait to bring a few of my own opinions.
I have no time for cultural totalitarianism.
We'll engage in passionate, but always polite debate, with your thoughts and opinions at the centre of it all. Monday to Thursday, 10 till 12, on TV, on radio and online.
Join me, Lawrence Fox, for my new show on GB News. Frank, fun, fearless, and sometimes serious. Much as I love a Friday night punch-up, what I really want is a battle of ideas. I want to look at things differently. I want to hear different voices and engage with your unique experiences. Friday, 7 p.m. on GB News.
My name's Tom Harwood, and join me 9:30 a.m. every weekday for The Briefing, your one-stop shop for everything you need to know about what's going on in politics today. I wonder if this is a deal that might need to be like the biscuits in this factory, twice baked.
Is there not an opportunity here to win out against the extremes?
Tom Harwood, GB News.
What are you going to do about it?
Things should have been done differently, and they certainly are being done differently.
Don't miss it. The Briefing with me, Tom Harwood, 9:30 Monday to Friday on GB News.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me at 11 on GB News for Headliners, in which I'll be joined by two of the UK's top comedians discussing tomorrow's papers. If it's an important story, we'll cover it, but we'll have some fun along the way. Headliners, the late night paper review that won't send you to sleep like the others will. 7 nights a week at 11 p.m. on GB News.
My name is Andrew Doyle. Join me every Sunday evening at 7 p.m. for Free Speech Nation. This is a show where we address current affairs and news stories of the week with the help of two wonderful comedian panellists. I brought in comics because I want to give it a lighter edge, and also they work for less. See you there.